Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming out. I guess we should have offered free food, but perhaps there are many citizens watching at home. This is not a regular City Council meeting. This is a State of the City address, but why don't we begin this evening as we usually do our council and CRA meetings with a moment of silence, and particularly thinking about our troops abroad. Thank you. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I was going to start with honorable members of the council, but we only have one here. We do have a council member-elect, Kathleen Burson, and Councilman Walt Johnson. So, and our city attorney is not here, but our assistant city attorney, Richard Room, is here. Friends and neighbors, welcome. Before I begin, I would just like to make you all notice that our city manager, Mark Ryan, is not here. His father is in the hospital, and Mark is with him this evening, so I hope we will all think of Mark in our prayers. This is my second State of the City address. When I spoke to you all 15 months ago, last August, I'm sure I said something to the effect that I would like this to be an annual event because I think it's a mayor's duty to talk to the citizens and bring you up to date on what the city is doing. Now, this is November. I'm sure there were many of you who watched August go by in September and October and were wondering, well, when's the mayor going to give his talk? Well, here it is. But why now? Well, it turns out, of course, that August is an absolutely terrible time to do something like this because of budget issues and election issues. Of course, we didn't have election issues last year, but this year we did, and we just decided it just was a terrible time to do it. But this is really an ideal time to do it because the budget is behind us, the election is behind us. We've not yet started on fiscal year 12, and we're in the week in between the last meeting of the old council and the first meeting of the new council, so it really is an ideal transition time, even in non-election years when we reorganize the council at the first meeting of the new year. So this will be both a status report and something of a projection of where I see the city now and where I see it going. Of course, it's from my point of view. This is a unique position, being mayor, so I do have a certain perspective that the average citizen doesn't, and I hope to share that with you. You can count on one thing, it will certainly be from my heart. Since I spoke to you last time, certainly a lot of things have not changed. These are still the best of times and the worst of times. We are still struggling with a poor economy. We're still concerned about the real estate market, jobs, and certainly the end of the Space Shuttle program and what it forebodes. We've also seen some projections as high as 17% in decline in real estate values, and that is going to be very problematic in creating next year's budget. I know there are citizens out there that are hurting. I know that there are folks who have either just lost a job with the recent layoffs or about to lose a job in the upcoming layoffs, or perhaps might hold out till next year, but ultimately the shuttle is gone and jobs will go away. However, I believe firmly that there is opportunity in adversity, and I think that we are faced with some opportunities and things we might do as a city that we might not normally have even thought to do were it not for the current state of affairs. Last year, I spoke to you about 4 goals, and in the intervening months, I've recognized that there's actually a 5th goal that I'm going to talk about. So Adrian, if you would, there we go. These were the 4 that I talked about last year: building a beautiful place, finding our economic niche, and this year I've added niche and wow, increasing the efficiency of government, and providing a first-class educational environment in our community. The 5th one that I've recognized in the past year is providing a first-class health environment in our community. Last year I called them 4 pillars. This year I'm going to steal a little bit of verbiage from a former U.S. president and call them Titusville's 4 points of light, or 5 points of light. Now what you'll notice from that diagram, which is basically a star inside a pentagon, is from every one of the points there's a line going to each of the other points. And I did that on purpose to show that I think those 5 points are all very much interrelated. They all rely on each other and they all in some way affect each of the others. So it's in that context that I really only have 2 objectives for this evening, and that is to define our community and our vision based on recent accomplishments, the challenges that we face, and objectives for the future. And secondly, to inspire a certain amount of confidence and hope in a time when confidence and hope is not universal because of the tough economy. So let's start with point of light number 1, and that is building a beautiful place. I still believe that beauty begets business. Now, there are some who believe that all we have to do is lower taxes and providing economic incentives and all our problems will be solved and the businesses will flood in. I haven't believed in silver bullets for quite a long time, and I don't think this is the time. Bringing jobs and bringing businesses to Titusville is hard work. Just ask Walt. He did it as Economic Development Director for quite a few years. And it's doubly hard because there are lots of other cities out there that are trying to do the same thing. And every single one of those cities believes firmly that they're the best place to live, that they have the best environment, they have the best schools, they have the best amenities, and they're doing all that we're trying to do to attract business as well. So the competition is fierce. However, there are a couple of things that I think we have to do, and that is, and besides that, if you're a businessman, you're probably not going to want to bring your business to a community, all other things being equal, that is tainted by abandoned buildings and litter on the street. And that's why every Friday that my schedule permits, I'm out there personally picking up trash on our streets. I'd like to think of it as leadership as by example. And by the way, if any of you would like to join me, I'm always looking for help, and I get some now and then. Just look at the city's website and look under Keep Titusville Beautiful, and you'll see a schedule of where I'll be in the next few weeks and a history of all the trash we've picked up in the previous year. Now, to our credit, we have many accomplishments that you just have to drive around Titusville and you see them. Now, I'll be the first to admit that the diggers are still ahead of the fillers, but I'm on notice that the fillers are catching up rather quickly. Just look at what we've accomplished. We've completed the new Titusville Veterans Memorial Pier, and it's beautiful, and there's so much concrete in that thing I don't think it's going to go away for a long, long time. We're very close to completing the replacement Max Boer Bridge with a second fishing pier underneath it. We're in the process and near completion of repaving and landscaping US 1 through our downtown. We're near completion of Marina Park, including 3 new boat ramps, a dog park, and a skate park. And we've used some neighborhood stabilization funds to purchase 2 significant abandoned buildings, knock them down, and prepare for building some new homes for some of our residents. We've also made progress with what some of you may have heard, the St. Johns River to the Sea Loop Trail, a 260-mile loop, which we were successful in getting that trail rerouted through downtown Titusville, and that's going to be a tremendous economic engine, which I'll talk about in the next section. We've also just about completed remodeling and revitalization of the Pritchard House, which is going to be a wonderful amenity to our downtown. Now, needless to say, we still have challenges. The abandoned buildings, the redevelopment of the downtown, and especially areas like Miracle City Mall. And certainly city cleanup will continue to be a factor until we get that completed. Now, I would tell you I've done 2 things in the past year that have had a tremendous impact on my thinking and my philosophy. The first was reading a book recommended by a citizen called Rise of the Creative Class by Richard Florida. And the second was taking 2 trips in the last couple of months, one to Las Cruces, New Mexico, where they're building a spaceport, and the second to Tavares, Florida. Neither of which were paid for by any tax dollars, I would add. Rise of the Creative Class has made me appreciate the need for us to continue to try to attract creative people to our community. Scientists, engineers, musicians, artists, and creative entrepreneurs that can add to this community. people that will provide the kind of intangibles that can make us prosperous. And I say this because I would reiterate that incentives alone are not sufficient. And you can prove that to yourself just by looking around parts of the country that have both high taxes and high costs of living and are prosperous nonetheless. They have those other intangibles that we have to work hard to get. But additionally, in the last year, what I've learned or come to realize is that building a beautiful place is not solely about what the place looks like. It's also about our community culture. It's about our music, our arts, our entertainment, and our natural amenities. Those are intangible parts of a beautiful place as well, and we've been working on that also. We started our Thursday Night Live Music Fest downtown, which started small, but they've been growing. I think that will help a lot. We started our Mayor's Cup Awards, and I did that starting at the beginning of the year to try and promote our art community as well as recognize citizens who have done some really neat things for our community and made it a nicer place to live. I understand that we're taking another shot at Farmers Market through the University of Florida. There'll be a farmers market every Wednesday afternoon up at Sandpoint Park. I was at a meeting earlier today where I learned we're going to have a secret garden tour in the spring of 2011. My wife and I went on a garden tour up in Mount Dora last weekend, and it was very nice. Another cultural event in Titusville. I had a citizen tell me not so long ago that if you want to have a successful downtown, you have to provide 4 things. You have to provide music, art, antiques, and ice cream. I think we've got the first 3. I hope that somebody's working on the ice cream. So let's move on to finding our economic niche and wow, because I think there's really nothing more important to Titusville's prosperity. Hold your breath. I'll talk about wow in a little bit while. Once again, there are a lot of accomplishments that we've done in trying to find this economic niche. We've found a new motto for our city, Gateway to Nature and Space. Perhaps we need a new logo or a new trademark to go with that. We've managed to attract a really neat company called the 4 Frontiers, and in combination with New Space Center. Some of us in town call them the Martians because they're planning to build a really neat Martian research, or it's a combination Martian research and tourist facility out on 407, where real Martian landscape research will be done, but tourists will be able to come in and see what's going on and maybe do Martian space camps along the way. I already mentioned the rerouting of the Loop Trail. And this is vital for Titusville so that we'll actually have bicyclists coming through town. And I've spent some time talking to Marcia Gadke of the Chamber, and we're planning to start having events on the southern trail within the trail to highlight the existence of that trail and pretend that it's already there and use the events to do that. I also understand that there's a group of downtown merchants that are coming together in a downtown merchants association to try and revitalize our downtown area, and that should be a great benefit to Titusville. Now, of course, the challenge is we can all sum up in 3 words, right? Jobs, jobs, jobs. And that's, of course, something government can't do, but government can certainly perhaps lay out a landscape in which entrepreneurs can be successful. We've got to diversify our economy, we've got to work on business retention, and we've got to compete out there in the private sector with all of those other businesses who are thinking about where they might want to relocate or where they might want to start a business. Well, the opportunities are great. So let me tell you about niche and wow and my trip to Tavares. Their wow is seaplanes. They've recently built a seaplane port on Lake Dora right behind their downtown area. Well, just think about our new motto, Gateway to Nature and Space. Boy, you talk about niche and wow. We've had wow for years, and it's been space. Only now, our wow has a new twist to it, and that is commercial space. And I think this is going to be a great opportunity for Titusville. Just think about how exciting things were. Now, I wasn't here, but I've been told by previous mayor, Vern Jansen, that in the 60s there were celebrities here all the time because of the prospect of going to the moon. Well, if you think the moon provided a lot of wow, just think what the excitement that we're going to generate by having space tourists coming through our town and launching near here on a regular basis. Did you see the article in the paper just this past weekend? Space Incorporated. this is a big deal, and this is a way that Titusville can piggyback on this whole concept of commercial space, and the WOW goes right along with it. I think it'll be a huge thing for Titusville. But keep in mind, remember I said I went out to Las Cruces, New Mexico last month, and I spoke at a space symposium out there. And they're building a spaceport also. In fact, you've probably read in the paper about Virgin Galactic. They're planning to launch out there first. And the spaceport out there, the folks out there actually have the audacity to call their spaceport Spaceport America. Well, what have we been for the last 40 years? As I said, the competition is just fierce, and we are going to have to learn to compete. But compete we will. We recently broke ground on Exploration Park, which will be a life science research center out on the Kennedy Space Center. We need to think about ecotourism in terms of our WOW. Think about this, the Turtle Festival that I already mentioned. When I was in Tavares, I learned that they have 18 festivals crammed in between October and April. I don't think we're ready to approach that just yet, but we certainly have our work cut out for us. Just think about space tourism. There's got to be a festival involved in that where we bring in space tourists for a week and help them learn about what it's like to become a space tourist, whether they can afford it right now or not, and maybe whet their appetite for plunking down that $200,000 or, as it becomes less and less, the opportunity to go into space. The bottom line is we're going to have to learn how to be civic entrepreneurs and build a city here that caters to that kind of entrepreneurship. And we need, of course, to continue assisting and helping those niche businesses that already exist here in Titusville, help them to continue to be successful. Let's move on to efficiency of government, because that one is probably the one where I have the most to report on, because that's what we do in this building. Since the council sets and implements Since the council sets the policy and it's implemented by the city manager, Mr. Ryan and I talk about this all the time, and we have, believe it or not, made significant progress. For example, the Titusville Police Department just received its accreditation as a police department. It's one of less than 150 police departments in a state of over 400 cities that have achieved that level of accreditation. We resurfaced in the past year 19 miles of our roadways, more than we have in any time in Titusville's history. Usually we got up to about 6 miles and considered ourselves lucky to do that. We've started implementation of pension reform, and the pension reform in the form of employee contributions will save the taxpayers $7.1 million over the next 12 years. We created a Citizens Budget Advisory Committee, which made some substantial recommendations to the budget process last year and validated some of the things that the city manager and his staff had put into the budget. We've refinanced the 1999 water and sewer revenue bonds, another big savings, $1.9 million to the taxpayers. And we've begun construction of the pipeline from Wellfield 4 down to the city of Titusville, at a savings of $5 million over the original estimates. Now, the subject of water requires some additional comment. I'm fortunate or privileged to sit on a regional board called the Congress of Regional Leaders that's composed of one mayor and one county commissioner from each of the 7 East Central Florida counties. So there's 14 of us plus 2 regional school board representatives. And what this board has done is taken on as its mission in life the policy of water management and trying to come to grips with water concerns in this region so that we don't have municipalities and government entities suing one another over new sources of water. But I would tell you that the data that I've seen and that's been presented to this Congress illustrates that the water experts, the hydrologists, are telling us that in our Central Florida region, we will reach a point of unsustainable groundwater use by the year 2013 on a regional basis. Well, that's pretty sobering. Now, our city staff has managed to accomplish what none of our neighbors, or few of our neighbors around, have been able to do, and that is through a lot of creative hard work over quite a few years, actually going back to even before I was on the council. They've created a public-private partnership with Miami Corporation that will supply Titusville with safe, high-quality, and cost-effective drinking water for many years to come. And again, at a savings to the taxpayers of over $5 million over the original projections. Now, this was a real team effort, and I would I really need to point out the work that was done by our legal department, especially Mr. Sievers, in negotiating this joint partnership with Miami Corps. It was hard work, and they did a phenomenal job. And I'd also like to highlight the Water Resources Department and Renetta Grant. They did an incredible job in finding a lot of extra dollars and grants and things that enabled us to bring this project in $5 million under cost. The challenges, of course, are the same ones that we've been seeing for quite a while. Pension costs, controlling health care costs, continued improvement in process in the city processes, and certainly this stigma that we seem to have developed of being business unfriendly. And I can guarantee you that Mr. Ryan and I talk about business unfriendliness on a weekly basis. And we've come to the conclusion that rather than being reactive about it, waiting for businesses to complain about the things we don't do well, we've come to the conclusion that we have to take a proactive approach and really get out there and work on this and remove the barriers and remove the things that businesses might find to complain about. In a sense, we need to bring to this city civic entrepreneurship to really make it happen. Now, I'm going to limit my comments on educational environment and health environment, not because they're important. I still think that they're vital in this five-point approach to making sure that we have a city that can compete with our neighbors. But in reality, the mayor and the city council has little control over what the school system does and what the healthcare system does, other than to perhaps make suggestions and applaud the successes. And we have had some successes, and I would like to point out just a couple. In the area of educational environment, if you're over 50 and you've not yet heard about Full Circle at BCC, you need to go up there and take a look. This is a self-teaching organization of folks over 50 who believe in lifetime learning and are doing something about it. They provide both the teachers and as well as the students, and the costs are really minimal. I think for $40 you can take as many courses as you can fit in the course of a year. So it's an incredible thing that they're doing up there. And the second thing I'd like to point out is our Passport to Discovery. And again, I'm not going to comment on that. There was a really excellent article about it in Sunday's newspaper. Suffice it to say that I've gotten lots and lots of positive feedback on it. The students and their parents seem to be pretty excited about it, but I would be remiss if I didn't publicly congratulate the people that made it happen. That is Dr. Ronbo Bay, the North Area Superintendent, who first saw the possibility of it. Some teachers up at South Lake Elementary School who did the large margin of legwork in finding all of these really neat locations in North Brevard and putting the activities together. And, of course, the three sponsors, the Saving Sephardi, the Titusville Area Chamber of Commerce, and Community Credit Union, who put up the funds to make it possible. Oh, I'm sorry, and Parish Medical Center as well. And last but not least, Marcia Gadke at the Chamber and the whole Educational Committee at the Chamber of Commerce. This really was a coalition effort, and it just shows what we can do as a city when lots of good folks come together to make things happen. In the area of health care, the two things that I would like to talk ever so briefly about is the fact that the city, in combination, in partnership with Parish Medical Center, has established this past year an employee health clinic and has transitioned to a partially self-insured health system. And we expect to save some $200,000 of taxpayer money on this by reducing health care costs. And I expect that this will be a model and will grow to other ways of doing this kind of thing within our city. And secondly, I've been sitting in on some meetings with an initiative by Parish Medical Center itself called the Community Health Network. And this is going to be a consortium of the hospital, the physicians, other healthcare partners, and social service providers to try and reduce the effect of people coming to the hospital, going home presumably cured, and then kind of falling through the cracks and having to re-enter the healthcare system. As in any other industry, rework is costly, and we want to eliminate that in the healthcare system. So in conclusion, I think that one cannot conclude anything else other than that we still live in very interesting times. We certainly have challenges, but in my opinion, we are blessed beyond belief. I tell people all the time, every opportunity, that we are the only city on the planet that has 2 airports, 2 golf courses, 2 hotels, 3 space memorials with a 4th on the way, a world-class antique airplane set up with a new hangar being built as we speak, the nation's largest civilian helicopter training center, the nation's largest birding festival, 7 miles of shoreline, an enchanted forest in Dixie Crossroads. What more could we ask for? And on top of that, we're surrounded by not 1 but 2 national wildlife refuges, a national seashore, and a world-class spaceport. We have it all. Earlier this year, a citizen gave me this little placard, which you can see up here on the desk. If you can't read it, if it's too small, it says "Dream" on it. I think it was intended to be a sort of minor insult, telling me that I'm a dreamer. But I'll make no apologies for being a dreamer. I learned a long time ago that if you don't have a dream, you'll never have a dream come true. And I'm haunted by the words of George Bernard Shaw, who said, "You see things and say why, but I dream of things that never were and ask why not." And I have so many dreams for Titusville, as I'm sure many of our citizens do. Just think again about our new motto, Gateway to Nature and Space. Well, I dream of 2 green gateway hotels, one at the north end of town at Sandpoint Plaza, containing a convention center that attracts and accommodates all of those new tourists that are going to come to our Loop Trail, our birding festival, our sea turtle festival, our bike loop, and provide a training facility for Parish Medical Center. And I see another green hotel down at Vector Space at the south end that will accommodate all these new space tourists that will ultimately come to our community. I see both of these hotels as being so eco-friendly and so technologically advanced that architects and engineers will want to see them just to see how they were built. I dream of a vibrant downtown full of music, art, antiques, and yes, ice cream, a place where our citizens and visitors can gather and enjoy each other's company at any number of unique hometown restaurants. And most important, I dream of a place where our children will want to return to raise their families because we have just the right mix of great jobs, great schools, great health care, and great outdoor recreation, as well as entertainment, shopping, and dining. Now let me tell you just a little bit more about my trip to Tavares, because I learned 2 things there that are of critical importance. The first thing I learned is that we cannot expect outside entrepreneurs to invest in us if we are not willing to invest in ourselves. And so when you look at that star, each one of those points need to have clear goals associated with it. They need to have firm implementation plans. We are currently working on many of them, and we must see them through to completion. I also see this talk as an opportunity to toss out some new ideas. And not to worry, I'm not going to talk about single-side trash collection. My first proposal came to me from a citizen and a neighbor. He said, you know, we have so many large abandoned buildings in Titusville. Why don't we get together as a community and refurbish one of them as a skating rink for our kids? We no longer have a skating rink in Titusville. I think it's a great idea. And why not? Why not through some combination of grants, volunteer labor, public-private partnerships, and creative financing? Why couldn't we do it? It would certainly rid us of one abandoned building, and it would provide a venue for the youth of our community, and what a great way to share a common purpose and invest in ourselves. Another citizen recommended to me recently that we ought to allow golf carts to drive on our public streets. Now, I was a little a little suspicious of this one, but lo and behold, when I went up to Tavares, they had just done that. They allow golf carts on their public streets as long as the speed limit is less than 35 miles an hour. And I've had this now suggested by more than one citizen and another citizen just within the last week. So why not give it a try? My point is that as trying to build a community here, there really are no bad ideas. All I ask is that you dream with me of things that never were and ask why not. Now, in conclusion, I'd like to share with you a blog that I received in email just this past week from a citizen of Tampa, a lady who claims to come over here to Titusville frequently because she loves our community. This is what she wrote. Mark, if you're listening, this is where I really could have used the teleprompters because I have to read this one. Now, this is from a blogger from Tampa. I finally realized what it's all about, and that is really what Titusville is about. Sure, it will have its hard time, but new ideas and new life will emerge, and it will become what it's destined to be next. Yes, maybe the next incarnation won't be precisely the town that we know and love, but it will be, and that's what's important. I spoke to many people today, the cashier at Walmart, Dave, the hot dog vendor at Miracle City Mall, the kid who cooked the pizza, the shoe salesman, the music store guy, etc., etc. And what was missing from our conversations was despair, negativity, or a grim outlook. Not a negative thing was said about Titusville. Even Dave, who is missing from our even Dave, who has watched it all fall down around him, said he had no plans to leave. He has been here 40 years, and I believe he'll be here 40 more. These people invested in this place aren't worried about the future, unlike a silly Tampa resident with a fondness for this town. They live with hurricanes, mosquitoes, alligators, bad seas, and bad fishing harvests. The threat of industry leaving looms, and yet they still smile. They are hardy survivors. Many lived with blue tarps, replacing their roofs after they were torn off in storms, replaced them only to have them torn off in the next storm. Adversity is nothing new to these people. They roll with the punches and continue to live each day no matter what is dealt to them. They are there now. They were there before. They will be there still. Don't you find it amazing that a visitor to our community from the other side of the state could characterize us, and I believe characterize us so accurately? I believe she is correct. This is a city that helped put a man on the moon. It's a city that helped build the International Space Station. We have never been afraid of a challenge, and I don't believe we're about to start now. So let me close with this final thought, and it's the most important thing I learned on my 2 trips to Tavares and to Las Cruces, New Mexico. The people out there are excited about what they're doing. I mean really excited. They see their future, and they are making it happen with the joy of kids in a candy store. I came away from my hour-long visit with the city manager of Tavares feeling excited and energized. Even my wife saw the difference in my demeanor when we met after that meeting. Excitement is contagious. So I believe we must do likewise. Vincent Peale once said, "Change your thoughts and change the world." I know there are many citizens in Titusville who believe that, as evidenced by the things that we've accomplished of late. I believe in our community, I believe in our citizens, and I believe in what we can accomplish together. So thank you for coming out tonight, the hearty few, and thank you for those who might be listening on TV. May God continue to bless our beautiful community, and God bless America.